The opinions, views, and conclusions expressed in this show are those of the show host and co-host and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of KPFV FM or its affiliates.
Combat Correspondents, a discussion of current events affecting the status and security of America. Your host is Stu Baker. Now, here is your host.
98.1 on the dial, FM dial that is, and we're ready to do the show. We got some good news that starting next week, we're going to be having some additional guests here that will provide very entertaining thought about what's going on here in the country and what we're going to do about it. So really, that's kind of important to know that there is somebody out there who wants to do something, that are taking action and not just talking. Talking is wonderful, but if you don't do anything to support it, it means nothing. So some of these people that we're going to have next week have kind of strange names, and like Bighorn and Biker, and just all kinds of different names that they use. Obviously, they're aliases, and it's not that they don't. They just have names that fit them, like Bullwinkle, for example. So you can expect to hear about that next week. But the more exciting part about that is that it is the beginning of what is considered to be Bikers United. Bikers United. Use your imagination for a second and think what that means. Have you ever wondered how many bikers there are in Nevada? How about California? Or New Mexico? Or Amagosa? Or any of those other places? How many bikers do you think collectively there would be? It's a staggering number, I'm sure. I don't know what it is today, but it's really a very, very, very large number. Now, it used to be that we used to get upset because of the Hells Angels and other various groups that subverted a lot of the things that went on in this country. It's created problems, murders, rape, you name it, they did it. But that's the bikers of yesteryear. They're not here anymore. I'm not saying they're not here in small numbers, but they're not here like they were before, and they're not creating the chaos and confusion that they did. And it's not an excuse that we're saying, hey, what happened? Did they turn the other cheek, or have they resolved to be good people? Well, those are not the people that we're talking about. We're talking about regular people, military, people who have been in the armed forces, Marines, Air Force, Army, Navy, all of those services, who just enjoy riding a bike. And rightfully so, because it is a lot of fun. Dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. I used to be a biker when I was a young man. Well, I'm still a biker, but I'm not a young man. So is there a age limit that prohibits you from biking? No, not as long as you're able and capable. Of course, there are safety precautions that we must all take. And I'm not going to be here to try to explain everything that is involved with the biker movement. But what I'm going to tell you is this, that the numbers are incredible. And so Bikers United means just exactly that. Now, does that mean that there's going to be one big crowd of bikers? No. It means there's going to be crowds of bikers from every part of the nation. Every single part of the nation. That's what it means. And they're going to be united in a cause of freedom. Oh, how could bikers be in the cause of freedom? They were already. They fought in the Marines, the Navy, the Air Force. These are people who have been involved before and know and respect this country. Isn't that what we need? Do we need people telling us in Washington, D.C., 535 people in Washington, D.C., telling us how to live our lives and disrespecting the people who have earned their American citizenship, people who have been in the military, people who have doing service work, taking care of the sick and the wounded. Those are people that we have to respect. So, as I mentioned to you, we're going to be having a full array of biker activities starting next week. And you're going to find out that they're pretty interesting. Did you know that the bikers get together in various places around Pahrump? Mountain Springs, for example, is a great biker place. There's other Johnnies and other locations here in Pahrump where the bikers gather. And why do they get together? Well, it's real simple. Camaraderie. They like being with other bikers. Now, you can say, well, why is that? Well, because they're a different breed, if you were. Still Americans, but a different breed. That is to say, they enjoy the outdoors. They enjoy the freedom. As a matter of fact, some of the groups are named under that. For example, I'm a member of the Free Riders. What does that mean? It means we ride free, without encumbrances. That's what it means. So when we begin to put all these pieces together and we make it more noticeable, oh, well, yes, they are noticeable, because you see, when you see 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, or 1,000 bikers traveling in a group to various places, and that's not unusual. As a matter of fact, one of the big events here in the United States takes place in Colorado, or the Black Hills, I believe it is, and Sturgis. And there's thousands, tens of thousands of people who attend Sturgis. Well, that's not what we're trying to be here. We're trying to be a little bit more unified than that. And that's why we call it bikers that are united. So expect to hear more beginning next week about that and some of the people that are involved with it. And again, they go by different names, surnames, or radio names, like in my case, I'm Blue Laker. But that's not my real name, but it's a combination thereof. And so why have I chosen to use that name? Well, because people were getting my name confused and saying Blue Laker. And so I just adopted the name for radio and television purposes. Well, some of these guys have adopted their own names, dog breeds, Chihuahua, just all kinds of different names that they like and use. So expect something different. Expect that you're going to hear things that you hadn't thought about. How good it is to be able to ride free. How good it is not to have the boundaries of a car. Many of these things are something that we as bikers all enjoy. And sometimes we have to bundle up pretty tight, but that doesn't stop us. And it's not going to stop us with Bikers United either. Bikers United means that we are all on the same page. We all enjoy the same things. We get together at different places for sandwiches and beer and good times and entertainment. We like that. And we hope that you will participate with us. That you may want to get rid of that four-door sedan that you're riding in and get something a little bit more comfortable, like a bike. But be careful, because it's dangerous. And you got to know what you're doing at all times. You can't take your eyes off the road with a bike. You can do it with a car for a second or two, but even that is very dangerous. Very dangerous. So the next time you see a group of bikers out on the highway, wave to them. Let them know that you know that they are united. So that being said, we can expect Tombstone and Chemo and a bunch of the other guys coming in next week to help get the message out, to communicate with other bikers, you see, because we are good communicators. We know the people in Amagosa. We know the people in Tonopah. We know the people in Reno. We know the people in Las Vegas. Now, when I say people, I'm referring specifically to bikers. And not all bikers are the same. Some bikers are driving smaller machines. Others prefer the Harleys, and there's different sizes of Harleys. I have a touring bike. It's pretty heavy, and matter of fact, I'm thinking about possibly driving a lighter one, just for maneuverability and parking and things of that nature. So you're going to learn a lot about that, because we are going to have some experts that can talk about it, tell you the good things and the bad things about biking, most of which are good. It's, again, the camaraderie and the meaning of why they're riding. Have you ever noticed how many bikers fly American flags on their bike? Yeah, American flags. Why is that? Are they just putting on a show, or are they in fact patriotic? Well, they are patriotic, and as I mentioned before, Marines, Air Force, Army, Navy, all of us have been something in the military. Somewhere, somehow, we've been connected. And we've done our duty for the country, and we said, hey, we're not through. We want to make sure that this survives. We want to make sure that we are not deprived of our constitutional rights. And that constitutional rights not only includes the First and Second Amendment, it contains all of the necessary ingredients that was created over 200 years ago and needs to be reinforced today. That's what we think we need to do, is to be able to reinforce the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all of the amendments and so forth that made sense. Unfortunately, some of these amendments that have come into play have been put into play for political purposes, power, domination, and control. These are the things that make America weak. And who put them into place? 530 members of Congress compared to 300 million more American citizens telling us what we can and what we can't do. Something's wrong with that process. And really what's wrong with it is that there are no referees in the game. No referees. It's either straight up and down red or straight up and down blue, and no bipartisan policies to make it cohesive. But what we want to do, and what we're intending to do, is to put the umpires in the game. Those umpires will be able to make their decision based not on party, but on individuals. Individuals who would be nonpartisan, independent. Now, nonpartisan and independent is basically the same word. Now, why is there such a differential? Well, it's because when you registered to vote, they asked you what you wanted to be. And if you said, well, I want to be an independent, and they said, well, we don't have independence. We have an independent American independence. And people get confused. Then if you don't state that, then they put you down as a nonpartisan. And guess what? In the state of Nevada, there's over 400,000 nonpartisans. Add 185,000 minor party people like the American Independents or the Libertarians and the other minor parties. Again, collectively together, it represent more members than either the Republican or Democratic Party. But we have no representation in Congress or the Senate. Why is that? Oh, you can say we have a token one or two. one or two that couldn't get along with the Democratic Party and decided to run as an independent, but caucus with Democrats. What does that tell you? Does it tell you that they are really independents? Are they nonpartisans? Or are they just Democrats in disguise? Just like the rhinos, Republican in name only. That's not what we need. We need independent thinking, people who understand, really understand, the purpose of what these bills that are presented are doing, how they're going to affect not only our lives, but the lives of our children and their children and their children beyond. You know, it's possible, just possible, that we may have 1,000 years of peace. 1,000 years of peace, as God has promised, 1,000 years. Where does it begin and how does it happen? Well, it doesn't happen by having a plurality in a political system that has no bounds, no referees, no umpires, and literally can do what they want because they have control. Well, our job is to make sure that that doesn't happen, that they don't do it by plurality, but by the actions that are favorable to the people of the United States. And let's talk about the United States of America for a second. We're not talking about everybody that's come in here over the last 50 years. We're talking about people who were born here, who have lived here, got educated here, who have joined the workforce, have become proud Americans and raised families. So we have a lot of issues to deal with. And we have to say to ourselves, what happened in the last election? Well, you might say, well, Trump won. Or you might say Trump lost. Or you might say there was manipulation. And I truly believe that there was manipulation. I truly believe that we need to correct that first. If we are ever going to turn this country around, we have to take care of the problems that exist with the voting booths. Where is it and why does it say, and who in the hell ever said, well, mail-in ballots? Who ever said we're not going to have identification for people coming in? Who ever said that we should not identify people who are going to vote? So you're basically saying that if you live in the state of Nevada, for example, you can vote? Excuse me. That's not the way it should be. Why? Well, let's use a couple of examples in life. You know, when you were young and growing up and went into grammar school, you had to be a certain age because they felt that your mental capacity was limited at that time. So you had to be 7 or 8 years old, and I think it was 7 when I was there. But the point is that through that process, we had to grow and become educated. Did I learn how to speak? Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, I was a mumbling fool when I was a young boy, and I thought to myself, how am I ever going to overcome this? And I did. I did it by patience and perseverance. That's how I did it. Nothing magical about the process. What about going to grammar school? And you went to grammar school from the 1st to the 8th grade, I'm assuming. So then you graduated from grammar school and you went into high school. And then you went through 4 years of education and you got a high school diploma. Could we have given that to you when you were 8 or 10 years old? Oh, maybe in a very rare case that could have happened, but that's not the way it works normally. There's a process and chain of events that you have to go through to gain the knowledge and information that you need to carry on a successful life, to be a good citizen. Now, why do I have to be a good citizen when everybody else, or not everybody else, but when some people don't care about that? Why is it important? Is because as a nation, we owe the respect and dignity to the people who fought and died for this country over 200 years. Thousands and thousands and millions of people who gave their lives to protect your right to safety and a future. That's why they did it. So are we to dismiss all that and basically wipe out the Constitution, take the guns away? Well, I don't think that'll ever happen. I think that there's some things that are in the air right now, or I shouldn't say in the air, or being worked on to overcome any challenge that we might have to take away our weapons. And it will be a long and dirty road, but it's something that we have to do, whether we like it or not. Just like going to school. We had to go to school whether we like it or not to get the education and be able to carry on in life as an adult. Oh, and that's the other thing. See, we went where we were children. We went from babies to young kids, and then from young kids to young adults, and from young adults to becoming adults. We went through that chain. Why am I talking about all this? It's real simple. People coming into this country should be required to go through a similar set of circumstances. You can say, well, gee, they know how to speak. Well, maybe they know how to speak Chinese or Mexican. I don't care. The point is that they need to know the customs and ways of the people here in the United States, and they need to earn the right to be able to vote and impact what goes on in our lives. Our lives. And if they happen to be of the same mind, whether it happens to be because of a nationality or whatever, and they're trying to take over parts of the United States, whether it happens to be in California or Mexico, or no, not Mexico, but in New Mexico and Arizona and other places where they group together. Now, you see, that's an example of what people power can do. And that's exactly what we're talking about with Bikers United. The more people that we know who understand what we are all about, the more power that we will have. And we're not looking for control. We're not looking to necessarily take over, East Las Vegas or North Las Vegas or Amagos or anything like that. We're not. That's not our program. Our program is for every American to be able to enjoy the rights that they haven't and that they have earned. Is that so wrong that we should be asking people to fess up, to show identification, so that they can claim their, hopefully, rights? Well, here again is why we have to change the way things are done. Is because, in my opinion, we have pressure coming from all sides. Now you can say, what kind of pressure is that? Were you talking about political pressure? No, I'm not talking about just political pressure. I'm talking about pressure in terms of resources. And we see this around the world. It's not just here, it's in India, it's in France, it's everywhere. Resources are absolutely essential to life. And as we deplete them, and we should run out of a vital necessity, we are in real trouble. Now, how can you say that? Well, I can say it because when we don't have water to feed our plants, then we don't get the plants to produce the food that we need to eat. So it's vital that we have these resources available to us, not the world, because we can't do that. Now, can they follow the same course that we follow? Yeah. They can distill water from the ocean. I mean, after all, the oceans are 95% of the land area. So there's plenty of water, but it's not potable. And so that has to be turned from salt water into pure water, and it can be. And we're not going to go into that today, but all we're saying is that water is probably the greatest resource we have to have. You can go 3 days without drinking water, but that's not what the requirement is. Most people agree that you have to have water of about, I believe it's 15 glasses of water a day. There's another number for that, but I don't know what it is right now. And that it all gets back to how much water is available. Well, we do know the areas that have been around for a long time, and it's estimated that it takes 4 acre-feet of water to supply the needs of a family of 4. So we can do the numbers, and we can say, well, if we have several million new, I can't use the word Americans, new people showing up at our borders, that they're going to deplete the water source rapidly. And when that happens, who are going to be the lucky ones to get it? Good question. You know, we all went through this last recession with the real estate market and everything. And I knew about it. When I say I knew about it, I knew that the bubble was going to break. But what I didn't know was when it was going to break. And then when it came, I wasn't really prepared because I could have sold some of my properties when they were at peak prices. But no, I thought, well, it hasn't happened yet, so just hold on a little bit longer. And then overnight, basically, like a tsunami, the wall came down. And then everything started to fall apart. Do you want the same thing to happen with your family, with your life savings, with your resources, or the ability to even have transportation that is suitable? How long do you think we could sustain this United States with the limited resources we have when the people in the Northeast are fighting drought conditions right now? But that's not just back east, which is kind of funny because they have the Niagara Falls and all that water and all the oceans. That's really kind of funny. We also have 4 states out here in the West, which is Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and California, who are in drought conditions, and it's getting worse by the day. Now, do you think it helps any for us to keep the borders open? Or do you think we should close them and then do repatriation for those people who have come in here illegally and are using our resources? You can say, well, that's not the humane way to do things. Really? Life is about survival. That's what it's about. It's about survival. Now, you could say, well, okay, life is about survival, but, I got a better place to go to when I die. Well, hey, that's your privilege. We don't know what's in heaven, but it sounds like a great place. You probably don't have to worry about water or food or entertainment or anything like that because it's different. But we want to worry about it here. We want to have a little bit of excitement and enjoyment out of life. It's not just getting married and having children and grandchildren and celebrating Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving. What happens when there's no more turkey? Oh, well, how can that happen? Well, the same way the real estate boom or the bust happened, the same way that 9/11 happened, the same way that Wounded Knee, Waco, and so many of the other things, Kent University, for example. How did these things happen? And where did they come from? They came out of the blue, like a thief in the night. And then I said, the Lord has said exactly the same thing. When the time comes, it will be like a thief in the night, and nobody knows the time or the place. And we can't even speculate. We can think, well, yeah, we got a pretty good idea because, look at the water, look at the food situation, look at the prices. So do you think that the pressure on our resources has created havoc? It certainly has. We see it in everyday pricing. We used to be able to get things for 25 cents on the dollar, on today's dollar. And now we have to pay 125% on today's dollar. So the pressure comes to us in many ways. And what happens if you don't have enough money to buy groceries for your children and your wife? What do you do at that point? You get prepared, is what you do, and hope that you can live through the tsunami that's coming. Now, how do I know it's a tsunami? Because it will be. 9/11 is another example of unpreparedness. And you can say, well, we got through that and only thousands of people died. Only thousands of people died. Well, this attack on the White House in January, I believe, 7th of last year, one person was killed. So when they talk about one person versus thousands of people at 9/11, where should the priorities be? And where's the responsibility for that action? You're going to say, well, Donald Trump did it. Well, no, Donald Trump did not do it. But you can think that way if you want to, because we're not going to be able to quell everybody's thoughts. People are going to say, well, he did this, he did that, and he might have. But the good thing about Donald Trump was he got things done. He did get things done. He managed to get things accomplished that nobody else has done. Of course, the group around the White House, the Democrats in particular, didn't want him, and they used everything they could possibly think of. Everything they could possibly think of to quell, to stop him, to get him kicked out, to get him, of course, they wanted him to be taken out of office. That didn't work. And at some point in time, we're going to have to pay attention not to the minor numbers of people who are against democracy, who are for socialism and communism. Those people are people that we can't really afford to listen to. And we got to stop them. And people like Maxine Waters and Pelosi, Schumer, and the list goes on and on and on. Are they really trying to destroy this country? And if they are, why are we allow them to stay in power? Well, what can we do? Because we put them in. Listen, we can take them out too. And I'm not talking about necessarily wiping them out or off the face of the earth. I'm talking about taking them out of the power position and get new faces in there, new people with new ideas and the know-how to make things happen. We have them. They don't always come running to the front door to say, here I am, but they're there. So that's exactly what we're trying to do, is we're trying to say, look, it's not God's intent for us to be in the mess that we're in on a constant basis. We need to take action. We need to do something that is going to be progressively stronger for the nation. And we can do it. We can't do it by ourselves, but we can do it collectively. And I know even here in Pahrump, several commissioners here have indicated that they don't listen to individuals. But if you have the numbers, they'll pay attention. What does that tell you? Isn't that the same thing that Other people have said numbers are everything. Well, I'm hoping that we can provide the numbers and the understanding and knowledge, not by one or two people, but by groups of people who are working towards the evolution and the future of America. So when you get a chance to think about this and look up some of the information that we've talked about, you will come across things that need to be brought to our attention so that we include them in the dialogue and the message that we're sending out. And we're going to send messages out very, very quickly, and we're going to disperse them on a basis not known before. How do you do that? Well, you're going to have to find out. So I hope that you will take the time to think about the things that we've said, and then to be able to call in and voice an opinion on this show or other shows. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention, there will be a biker show designed specifically for bikers so that they can get the latest news and information, and also so they can communicate on a much wider scale. Yeah, that's organization. That is where we must go. We must have the collective efforts of other people, all of us, to ensure that our rights and privileges are not taken from us. So I hope that when you are out talking to your friends and your neighbors and you say the bikers are coming, it's a little bit different than the British are coming. The bikers are coming means that we are coming, that we're going to be around, we're going to be in maybe your neighborhood, and we're going to give you the opportunity to join us in this forward attempt to bring back America. Well, I guess we've laid out a course of action, and now all we have to do is follow it. And is it going to be just one group? No, it's not. It's going to be many, many, many groups. And many, many people who are going to get engaged themselves in this. Think about it. What are you living for? Are you living for yourself, and are you totally happy? Or do you recognize that America is going downhill and we need to do something about it? If you are willing to help, if you are willing to be a part of taking America back, then you want to pay attention to what we're doing, because we are on the cuffs of making things different here in the United States. We're getting ready for Thanksgiving here pretty quick, and I hope that your bird is the one that's on the table, not in your finger. But we should be thankful for what we have here in this country. But we need to be reminded that those things can go away in the blink of an eye, and especially when we have someone as callous like Joe Biden in the presidential office. And I'm making it a point here today to make one thing very, very clear. Hunter Biden has committed basically treason against the United States when he engaged with the Chinese. But nobody's paying attention to that either, are they? Why is it that he gets to skate with millions and millions of dollars of income from something that happened because of the big guy? The big guy, his dad. And how complicit is Joe Biden in the CNP? I think that deserves more of an investigation than anything else, including January 7th in Washington, D.C. Nobody's going to do anything about that, are they? No. Why? Because they're not going to give up control, not easily. But I'm saying we need to put the hammer down on Joe and Hunter, and we need to do it quickly. We don't need to let them escape that. They're complicit. They knew what they were doing, and it's all about control and power. So look forward to what is coming, that we haven't forgotten about those things. We're not interested in Joe Biden's world vision. We're not interested in anything but the United States of America, a land that we are all proud to be a part of, and will continue to do so as long as we can retain our rights. If they take our free speech away, if they take our guns away, well, first of all, it will not happen. And it's not because I am gun hungry or looking for that. But I do know what happens when you take the only defense that people have. When you maybe take their resources, like water, food, and you turn their money into worthless paper. What happens if they decide to recall all the U.S. dollars and money? What will you use to buy food with, if you can even find the food? Can they do that? They can shut it down tomorrow morning. That quick. You can say, well, they'll never get away with that. Well, I don't know that they won't get away with it, but I can tell you what they won't get away with, and that's taking guns away from the public. I think, well, they're dangerous weapons. Sure, in the hands of a criminal, they can be very dangerous. In the hands of a civilian group, you remember the American Revolution? How do you think we would have been in the American Revolution with just pitchforks? We had to modernize. We had to put things into perspective. And we did it. Can you imagine how difficult that was back then? You need to read on history and see what the British thought and how they were moving ahead until we turned them around. And you see, folks, that's what we're saying now. We have to move forward and turn this administration around. It can't be like this anymore. And the best way for us to do it is to put the umpires in the game. And how do we put the umpires in the game? We get them elected to offices around the country. Independents, nonpartisans. Oh, but they're not Republicans or Democrats. They don't have to be a Republican or Democrat. They have to be an American citizen who understands that our future depends on the success of keeping the rules and regulations straight, and that's what the umpires do. That's what they do in football and basketball and baseball and everything else. The umpires keep the game straight. But right now, the two-party system sucks because there are no umpires in it. It dictates by plurality. Dictates by plurality. Plurality doesn't mean anything if it's going in the wrong direction. If these United States and the people of the United States, not the elected officials, take control as it is intended to be, government for the people and by the people. That's what it is. Not heads of state who are there for one particular purpose, get a paycheck, and they don't have to do anything to earn it. Nah, they have to do nothing to earn that. You see, they get their check no matter what they do, right or wrong. And they don't even have to be there to do that because, you see, their particular party has already decided what they're going to do relative to the bill or amendment that they're proposing. And we're helpless to stop them. Helpless. Right now, we are helpless. But that's going to change, and we're going to make a difference. And I hope that you will pay attention to what's happening in the future. We have, right now, about a year before the midterm elections. And I promise you, as I am sitting here talking to you today, that this midterm will be different than any other midterm you have ever seen, ever. That we are turning the corner and we're putting our backs against the wall. That's what we're doing. We intend to be the driving force here in the United States. Who is that? Well, find out next week. Make sure that you tune in to 98.1 FM and listen to Combat Correspondents. That's the name of the program, Combat Correspondents. And we'll be talking about that in the next show. I used to do Combat Correspondents in Las Vegas, and it was really kind of an interesting show because it was not, it wasn't just your regular speaker talking about, everyday topics. It was about people sitting together and challenging each other to come up with the best answers possible. That's what it was, Combat Correspondence. And that's what's going to happen again, is we will be in Combat Correspondence in the ensuing weeks. And the most important thing, as I mentioned to you, is next week we will begin with Bikers Organized. So for today, and in hopes that you may have gotten some information, I will look forward to being able to talk to you next week and to bring some of the bikers in here who are Bikers United. Bikers United, remember that, and make it spread so that it becomes the word and the action and the cause. The word, the action, and the cause. Bikers United. So this is Blue Laker, and I hope that you will join us next week because you will learn a lot and you'll be happy to understand that there are people out there that are willing to take some action, not just play politics. That's not our goal. Our goal is not political. Our goal is not a party. It's not the Republicans. It's not the Democrats. We're nonpartisan. We're independents. We don't vote party. We vote people. We don't let them decide they're going to run. We elect people who we feel are comfortable with what we're doing, who believe, again, in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, who have seen this happening over the last several years and know and understand that we need to make the changes. We're not alone. We have many, many, many people involved in the process, some that you will recognize and some that you will learn to understand. So again, I would ask you to make sure that you tune in next week, 98.1 on the FM dial between 4:30 and 5:30. It will be a very interesting show and you will not be disappointed. Until then, bidding farewell. Have a great day and a great weekend.